We're really fortunate at Royal Birmingham Conservatoire to have 5 incredible performing venues. We've got the lab space, which anything can happen there. It's a kind of workshop space, and we use it with the School of Acting quite a lot, and the composers use it a lot for experimental works. We've got the Jazz Cafe, which is the only one in Birmingham and is used most nights of the week for both internal and external performers coming in. We've got the organ studio. I think we're the only conservatoire in the country to have an dedicated organ studio. We've got the recital hall, which is a lovely little space for chamber music, or a smaller scale recital, holds about 150. And then the jewel in the crown is the Bradshaw Hall, which is a 500-seater, absolutely beautiful acoustic, and all the acoustics for these 5 spaces were designed by the same person, Michael Whitcroft. They're all completely different, and they all are working exactly as we'd hoped. Well, I love the work here. I love working with the students here. The students are what gives the place the incredible energy that it has. But of course, we've got wonderful teachers here as well. And teachers are incredibly important because they can either inspire you or put you off something. And I think that's one of the criteria we have for our teaching staff, is that they should be very inspiring people. I think one of my jobs is, to use the contacts that I built up really over 40 years of playing myself. So we've had some incredible musicians who've come in here during my 4 years here now. People like Danny Denise, the singer, and/or Roddy Williams, incredible violinist, Kavakos, our wonderful head of cello, international head of cello, Jing Wong. Many players just coming in all the time. In fact, so much goes on in this place that it's really quite hard to see everything and to listen to everything. One of the most significant things that's happened recently is that I was over in Hong Kong. I used to record for Naxos Records, and so I knew the people there, and I had a meeting with them and started talking about my students, and they said that they had various opportunities, particularly for pianists, and in the end we have now secured a 6 recording deal for 6 different conservatoire students. Our wonderful violist, UAU, and 5 pianists to record. So, I mean, it really is a fantastic opportunity, which I don't think has ever happened with any other conservatoire before. When I stopped playing, I imagined that probably I wouldn't be travelling so much, because I used to be literally on the road all the time. But actually, since I've taken this job as principal at the conservatoire, I find I'm travelling a lot. To make contacts for the conservatoire, to build on existing relationships. Particularly, I've been a lot to the Far East and especially China, where so much is happening, of course, in music, in particularly classical music and conservatoires. An awful lot of money being invested in new buildings, virtually wherever you go there. So it's a very important place for us. We have a huge number of Chinese students. I think we have at the moment about 130 out of just over 700. So that's a big proportion of students from one country. They have a really strong work ethic and often play really beautifully. So they're a very important part of our student contingent. I was very lucky to have really good teachers from when I was very young. I think the first teacher who really inspired me was a lady called Runa Martin at the junior department of the Royal College in London, and I think she became my teacher when I was about 11, and she really enthused me and went way beyond the call of her duty by actually taking me to hear some great cellists in London. So I heard all the cellists that were playing regularly at that time. Pierre Fournier, who became my teacher, strangely enough, much later on. Paul Tortelier, Jacqueline Dupre. The one who made the most impression on me was Mstislav Rostropovich, who was, I would say, the greatest cellist I've ever seen. And I went to many concerts of his in London when I was around 13, and he would be the person I would say inspired me to take up the cello myself. I was fortunate during my life as a solo cellist to work with some really top musicians. Perhaps the one that really stands out for me was working and recording the Elgar cello concerto with Yehudi Menuhin, who'd worked with Elgar himself on the violin concerto. I found him a lovely man, a really beautiful person to make music with. Everything was very spontaneous. It's not always the biggest name conductors who are the best with soloists. You know, sometimes the conductor wants their say on the interpretation a little bit too much, considering, you know, that perhaps the soloist has worked on a piece for years. The conductor might just pick it up on the day and then start telling you how to play it. But I did work with some great collaborators, like Neville Marriner was another one who I love working with. I played the Elgar with a lot of different conductors. George Schulte and Lorin Maazel was another great conductor I worked with, and Svetlanov, the Russian conductor, he was brilliant to work with. So yes, and then I worked with pianists like Clifford Curzon, Murray Pariah, John Lill, Peter Donahoe over the years. And on the jazz side, I worked with Stefan Grappelli and Cleo Lane, and I even recorded one number with Elton John. I think everybody loves music. Some people, I've had people come up to me and say, well, I'm not musical, but actually what they mean is they don't play. So I think everyone has a kind of soundtrack to their lives, music that they've always known and loved and got to like. So it's important to seek out the opportunities to play an instrument. They do exist. In some places it's harder to access than others, but you can. And I believe, you know, if you have a love of music, it's really important to develop that and to see how far that can take you. I think you will get nowhere in music without a real love and passion for the music. That's what drives you through, because it's a tough profession. There are many, many people trying to do the same things at a very high standard. But if you keep your love for the music, that will bring you through the difficulties. It's a very unusual performer who has no nerves before playing, because one of the beauties of live performance is that it's unpredictable. So, you know, when you walk on that stage, you're never exactly sure what's going to happen, and obviously that can produce a certain tension. Really, the secret is to try and make those nerves work for you, to give that performance a bit of extra adrenaline. It's something that you have to learn, really, over the years. I think the most important thing is to keep playing. Even if you are nervous, play to your friends, play to your family, just keep playing to people. And eventually, I think it's something that you can conquer. I think it's really important to have something that you enjoy outside music. I think music is such a concentrated career. I read a lot. I tend to read quite light-hearted sort of crime books, that kind of thing, because I think you need some release from music. I'm also a big soccer fan. My team, Leyton Orient, are not doing quite as well as they should, but I'm well used to that. I think children are good at lots of different things, and if you only introduce them to a very narrow range of subject, it can be quite damaging. And I'm really pleased to see that in the Far East, music is becoming more and more of an important subject at school. Unfortunately, in the UK, music has been allowed to go out of a lot of schools. And I think it's a really sad situation, particularly as music has been proved. The study, if you play a musical instrument, it basically improves all the rest of your schoolwork, because it uses parts of the brain, develops parts of the brain that otherwise would remain dormant. And it really has been proved to help maths and languages. See, music is a very complex thing for a human being to do. To play a musical instrument requires all kinds of skills. And the other thing, of course, about it is, particularly if you're working with an orchestra and with an orchestral instrument, it's about doing things together, to actually working together towards something that is bigger than that group as a whole. As you as an individual, you're working to create something very special. So I think music has a huge place in the lives of children. Of course, to enter a conservatoire, you have to reach a really high standard. When you take those entrance exams, when you're 16, 17, 18, you've got to already be at a very advanced level. In order to do that, the only way you can really do that is to keep practicing, to keep developing, to keep working on what you do. I think particularly at the conservatoire here, we're not so obsessed perhaps with technique. We look for potential. We look at someone with a musical personality that has got something to say about the music, and perhaps is a little bit different in their approach. So we're not perhaps as rigid as some places might be. I think this conservatoire has the potential to be one of the best in the world. It has fantastic facilities that are already amongst the best I've seen anywhere. Great teachers. We need to spread the word perhaps a bit more.